local government services, and it only governs the county and school taxes. Municipal taxes, those rollback rates, the sales tax rollback stuff, they're under the same taxpayers' bill of rights obligation. However, Department of Revenue does not check that, upon digest submission. We would uphold the approval of a digest, a bill and collection order on the county and school to ensure that they do the proper rollback, the proper millage rate rollback of the sales tax.
Thank you, sir. So, Chairman Blackman, did you have what number are you there?
I don't want to, I'm for it.
Okay, does anyone have any questions about the gentleman, what he related to us? That was how they basically can ascertain and approve that requirements of this bill are met, and they can hold the billing and therefore hold the ad valorem tax collections of folks other than cities, other than municipalities. I think that was something that was important, so we have that, and we wanted to spread that for information and for discussion. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
That is correct.
So, members have any questions about that, the additional amendment? Again, we're not in a position we're going to try to move this today. We'll try to put it together because we're a little bit short-staffed, but we wanted to expose that to the public and to the subcommittee members for future action. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I was just going to add to Chairman Williams just a brief overview of what we're trying to capture here. I know there have been a few questions, but in a perfect world, it's the status quo with a flexible penny for those that have not maxed out. And that's as short an answer as I can give you, but it would provide for a property tax rollback. And that is what we're trying to establish, some extra language that would ensure if there wasn't a rollback commensurate with the amount of money coming in from the sales tax, the penny, then it would, have some sort of a stick there to make sure that that's adhered to. So that's all I've got, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to kind of add that. Is that fair?
That's perfect. I know in the legislature we like to call these guardrails, if you will. But yes, Mr. Chairman, that's exactly right.
Thank you. Any further questions of the gentleman? You have the amendment. I guess our intention, Chairman Blackman, is to roll that amendment into the sub and create a new LC number that we'll take up later. But that would be the language that we'll be offering coming forward. So if there are no more questions, Mr. Colson, thank you for joining us. We know you're sitting still somewhere, not driving a car, talking to us on the phone. So, but we appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. You're certainly welcome.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And if it pleases the committee, if there's objection to this, I'll slow it down. But since we're not going to take action on this, I'll remain in the chair and call up House Bill 1225. It's a bill I offer today, and Chairman Blackman was good enough to allow me to bring it to, again, spread information. The basis of this is, around here locally in the county in which we sit, there was a lot of angst in negotiating the loss distribution over the past the past 10-year period when the census came out, because Fulton County exists. There's a very small population that's unincorporated. Fulton County, as the loss distribution, as the loss negotiation is now, they basically have the veto power. They have a veto power. So it caused a lot of angst between the cities and the counties, and depend on who you talk to, they may or may not have gotten to a fair distribution, but it caused a lot of angst. And I feel like our cities and counties, represent the same people to some extent, and we want them to get together. So and there's also places in the state where a city has a small piece of there's maybe only one small city in a county, and they have veto power over the county, because if they were to opt for their population share, they only get a very small percentage of the loss, yet they represent 100% of the incorporated population, which gives them the veto power. So what this bill seeks to do, primarily on page 3 and lines 52 through 64 is to create a situation whereby if a county chooses not to opt in, they would stand in the shoes of a municipality. They basically take absent municipality stance, and they would get their population, pardon me, share of the loss distribution. Likewise, the way this is written, if a city were to represent 100% of the population of the cities, but less than half of the population of the political subdivision, that would be the whole county, and they were trying to, if you will, hold hostage the larger, the majority, they would get to participate as an absentee municipality. The idea in the bill is simply to bring everybody to the negotiating table on the same bargaining level, if you will, with the hopes that they would keep that in mind and not hold the other political subdivisions within the county hostage, if you will, in this negotiation. So that's what the bill is in response to, and what I hope it will create. By the way, there's nothing in this bill that gets in the way of the current negotiating process. So my hope would be, if we pass this bill and everybody's negotiating from an equal spot, that counties and cities would get together and do the right thing for their cities, and the absent political subdivision language put in this bill would never actually kick in, because people would get together and do the right things. But I wanted to sound that out. I've also talked to some folks that there could be some flexibility that we may look for in how counties can use that rollback percentage just in the special service district, because that's what the loss was meant for. I mean, the part that goes to cities now is being spread to reduce taxes in the cities. Arguably, the part the county keeps should be used just to reduce millage in the what we used to refer to as SSD, Special Service District, within a county. But there was some case law in the 70s in Georgia that required that to be spread across the entire county. So we may be able to fix two issues with one piece of legislation here. So with that, I would take any questions or from the committee or from the audience. But no, the idea is to create a fairer system so that our counties and cities could work together for the best interest of the people they represent. Any questions? This first hearing on this. If there aren't questions today, if you have them, overnight or over the weekend, please reach out to me, and we're just trying to make the process easier for our elected officials around the state so they can continue to represent the good people of Georgia. Any questions? Wow, people must be ready to go home. I see no further questions. Do we have another meeting? One more. And so with that, we complete our sales tax subcommittee and move on to move on to public finance. So without objection, we'll stand adjourned for sales tax subcommittee. No objection, we are adjourned.
We'll bring to order the Public Policy and Finance Committee, and we will start with Chairman Newton on House Bill 1090.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I do bring before you the committee substitute to House Bill 1090, LC 500757S is the version we're working off of. Once again, as everyone knows, the challenge in Georgia, both how this body has tried to encourage adoption and foster care for children for so many reasons, to make a difference in the lives of these children, the trajectory of their life, their ability to grow and have families. We found out that a good bit of that can happen after they turn 18 and are no longer eligible for direct state involvement. The Fostering Success Act of a couple of years ago began a process to allow not-for-profit services to assist these children in those critical years, as we all know, that have raised children from 18 to 21, both with the finances they may need, the nutritional support, transportation, so many other things that they need. So that's what the Fostering Success Act was. Today's HB 1090 is an effort to clear up some things in that bill once it's been through it for about a year. We did not meet the cap that was approved on the previous legislation of 20 million. So we do, in this bill, we look for ways we can clean up the language that allow what individuals that are clearly in need and not being taken care of by either an adoptive family or other means. We want to open up the tax credit portion so that it's acceptable for other businesses that may not pay income taxes, but in this case, for example, may pay premium taxes or other types of taxes. And then we want to make sure there's guardrails around that spending to be sure that when we, through a tax credit, we encourage those to donate a portion of their tax obligation, that money will be going to the children themselves and not necessarily to overhead or any other expenses for other programs in this particular legislation. So that's what House Bill 1090 does. I will tell you in the substitute, we cleared up, if you'll look with me on page 2, in particular lines 24 and following to really all the way down to 33. We have some definitions of some of the highest need individuals in the foster care program defined there in those lines up to line 30, including homelessness, even if they're adopted after a teenager. We know that those are some high-risk children. Then finally, if you get down to line 33, you see justice-involved youth. That's a small group of some of our justice-involved youth, if you look at the definition, and it makes it clear that they are individuals most likely to be able to benefit from a program like this, that they have not been in a secure setting. They've been able to be housed in a non-secure setting, but similar to foster children, they're still under state assistance and guidance. So when they age out, this also allows them to have the mentorship programs that are needed and to have the support that's needed. If you look on line 34, the business enterprise is the definition that we've added to allow entities that may not owe income tax but do owe a good bit of taxes to the state to use a portion of their income tax obligation to donate to worthy qualified organizations that are doing this excellent work. If we go on through, you can look on line 57, a little more clearly define the mentorship that we're looking for. We want these programs to be actually intently involved in the lives of these young men and women that are, officially legally adults, but not necessarily fully adults. So we want to make sure that the mentors are there for them, along with all the necessary life skills and life needs that are there. You do look on line 77 and following. We want to make sure that there's that the compensation is appropriate. It's enough, but not in any way inappropriate. I believe that's the gist of the bill. We do have some language later in this bill that has to deal with when the Department of Revenue manages a program, for example, to make sure the caps are met, or if they're not met, that they're handled appropriately, whether it's proration or whether it's just keeping up with the fact that on our behalf they've reached a cap. Well, now that we have income taxes with the Department of Revenue and insurance premium taxes that might go to the Department of Insurance, we included language to make sure that those two entities could legally share information So if an entity was to donate to a qualified organization doing this work, that it would be properly handled and it would be able to be audited. That's what some language to allow Department of Revenue to share information, not just with the taxpayers, which is their normal restriction, but in this particular very distinct case, that they, with permission, they would share the information with the Department of Insurance, who's responsible for managing the insurance premium taxes that these credits are allowed to go to. I believe that's the gist of the bill, the changes that were made with this subcommittee's input, and I believe this is a step we can take for children that we can all look at. We like to do return on investment. This is going to be one where it can probably be measured if you look at the likelihood of coming in a gang or ending up with health conditions that are problematic. Early pregnancy, whatever it might be. We think this program will pay dividends by allowing these individuals to have mentors that can make a tremendous difference in their life at a time that's when they're so vulnerable. So I do appreciate the committee considering this, and I hope that you all will see it favorably.
Members of committee, and Helen, why don't you go ahead and come on up to the front while we're asking questions. Any member have a question? Number 19. Yes, sir, Doc.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, this is actually the first time I've seen this. I think I'm on the subcommittee. I'm pretty sure that I am. I don't want to ask questions and vote if I'm not, but I'm pretty sure I'm on. But so I'm not clear about who gets the tax credit. And the other thing is 25 seems, to raise that age to 25 seems, 25 is not a child by any stretch of the imagination.
We do have somebody, if the chairman, if you don't mind, we do have a former DFACS director who's both familiar from his government time. Chairman Stevens, do you mind if Tom Rawlings, the former chair of DFACS, director of DFACS, speaks to explains the difference in 21 and 25? Yes.
Tom, you have the.
Sorry, Chairman Parsons. So you're right, 25 is not a child, but I think what we're dealing with here are youth who, because they've been traumatized in foster care, need help making that adjustment to adulthood a little longer. Remember that the tax credit is going to families like you and me who are donating this money to an organization such as, I'll just use one for an example, Connections Homes. Connections Homes provides mentors to these young people. And they do need this, beyond 21. 25 is sort of a nationally recognized date that, while my 24-year-old is actually out in the world doing well, if you've been through the foster care system, and you probably need a little extra time to get the assistance that you need.
This just applies for children, if you want to say that, who have been in foster care. Is that correct? Have been in custody of the state?
Yes, sir. These are all children who not only have they been in foster care, but these are the ones who we have identified as the most needy in terms of making that transition from foster care to adulthood. So, for example, if you were in foster care at age 3 and 4 and maybe were adopted or returned home, that's one thing. If you've been in foster care at age 14, 15, 16, you probably have experienced a great deal of trauma. You probably need a lot of help in bridging that gap to adulthood.
Okay, well, I appreciate the answer. It still seems to me like 25 is very old, and there are a lot of young people out there who are not in foster care, whose lives have been traumatized just as much in some way or another, and they're not getting any tutoring or any of those things. It just seems like 25 is, to me, it seems like it's an awfully old age. I mean, somebody could be in the military and out and be on their way to retirement by 25 years old, yes. And it just doesn't seem right. I'm not objecting to the bill or anything like that, but I'm just making a statement. I think that 25 is too old. It's almost like you're mollycoddling these guys, these kids at that age. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what, if they're not straightened out by 25, I don't think they're going to get straightened out myself.
Yes. Well, I appreciate the observation. I just also recognize that having worked in this field for a long time, you do have 23 and 24-year-olds who are making great progress, but they were set back several years by their foster care experience. But thank you.
Representative Camp, did you have your light on?
Thank you. I was just going to make the comment that oftentimes, I know just from talking to our technical schools, we have individuals who might not find their way until they're in their very early 20s before they go into a technical program. So this would assist them as well, correct? They were part of the juvenile justice. All right, thank you.
Anyone else for Tom? Any other questions? Then Helen Sloat.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Helen Sloat, and I'm a policy advisor at Nelson Mullins, and I have the pleasure of representing Together Georgia, and that's why I'm here today. So first, I'd like to say thank you to Chairman Newton. We appreciate him sitting down and meeting with us and talking through some of the ideas that we had around his bill. We think it's a good bill. We like the intent behind it. We only just received this substitute, so I would like to say we'd like to take a closer look at it and come back to Chairman Newton if we have any additional concerns. But I think his substitute appears to address some of the things that we raised and brought to his attention. I will say that there are now, as I understand it, 39 entities that are now able to be signed up and take advantage of this money that's coming in. So we greatly appreciate it. I think that's why it took a while for folks to get to learn about the program, and therefore they didn't know that this was out there, and that may be why they didn't reach the cap, but we think that that's going to happen soon. So thank you very much.
Anyone else on the measure? I'm going to suggest that Helen and Representative Parsons, if y'all would meet with the author and see if we might have a conversation on the age and your issues as well. That might not be in the bill before we move this thing forward, if that's okay. But I would suggest you meet before tomorrow morning.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. I think I'll...
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going on now to House Bill 1116. Representative Buckner. Yes, come on up if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll be working off a substitute that's a little bit longer than the one you saw a couple of days ago. It's LC 500755S. This is the historic tax credits bill, and it's a combination of the bill that that Chairman Stevens had and that I had. And if you don't mind, I know we've already heard part of it, but if we could just walk through it and I can tell you what we're doing with the larger bill. Basically what this will do is extend the residential program on page 4 on lines 89 to 90. It's going to extend the residential program, and it will cap it at its current $5 million level. So the level does not change. And on that same page, on lines 91 to 93, we will raise the annual cap for commercial projects to $60 million. It was 30, and it will get raised to 60. Also on page 4, on line, I'm sorry, this is out of order, but on page 4, lines 75 to 81, you will see the per project caps for commercial to go from 7.5 to 15 million. Then on page 5, on line 94, up at the top of the page, you'll see that the tax credits there, all of the tax credits for commercial and residential are being realigned and renewed so that they will all expire at the same time in the future. And then on page 2, sorry, this, like I say, I'm sorry it's out of order. There is a change that the Georgia Historic Trust has suggested that under the residential program that we allow buildings that are eligible but may not be totally through the certification process to be able to begin the process of renovation and seeking the tax credit. And that's lines 26 through 34. And other than that, it's just a renewal bill. If you have any questions, there are some people here that work with these on a regular basis that can answer your questions, and I'll try to answer any questions that you might have. This is an opportunity for us to save some older buildings to make them into workforce housing and to reclaim some neighborhoods that may have become somewhat run down, and I think it's a good way for us to help with the housing crisis that we have and fix that in 2 different ways with commercial and residential.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We do have some who've signed up, one who's signed to speak to this, but before that, are there any questions for the author by committee members?
Well, before that, I should have done this in the beginning, but I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to work with Representative Stevens and for him to allow this to move forward together.
Thank you, ma'am. Lee Hughes, you're signed up to speak to House Bill 1116. Come on up, introduce yourself to those who don't know you. And
thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Lee Hughes. I'm from Savannah, Georgia. I'm here today representing the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation and some others who have taken advantage of this program over the years. I think a little bit of background is probably appropriate. This program was first established in 2008 with some very small numbers associated with it. And in 2015, believe it or not, it's been about 10 years since that next effort to make this a more robust program. So that's part of the justification behind the move to raise some of these per project caps. Frankly, $1 million doesn't go as far as it did 10 years ago. It's been a very successful program, both in urban areas and rural areas. The impetus for the bill this year is that the residential program is due to expire. There was a study done by Dr. Greg George from Middle Georgia State University who came to the previous meeting of the subcommittee, and he testified that he had found much more evidence than he expected, but substantial evidence that there's a good return on investment on the residential program. On the commercial program, the most recent study that I can cite was a Georgia Tech study that showed a 3.5 to 1 return on investment for commercial projects. You know, on a more simple basis or anecdotal basis, you're taking a lot of times properties that are blighted properties and that are not contributing to the tax rolls, and you're refurbishing them and restoring them, rehabbing them, to use the terminology in the tax credit program itself, and you're making those contributing members of our community through tax generation. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I hope you guys will pass the bill.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the subcommittee members? Sure. What number? Push your button there. Just.
It says 88, but I'm looking up there. We don't have 88. Okay. Mr. Hughes, I don't know if you know this or to the author. You mentioned properties that were in need of rehab. That if you avail yourself of this income tax credit, you can also avail yourself of like being in a TAD, a redevelopment tax allocation district, can you, as well?
Yes, you can.
You can do both.
Yes. I don't think there's anything in the law. You might want to double check me with leg counsel, but there's nothing in the law that precludes you making yourself available to both programs.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Looks like there's no other questions at this time. Is there thank you, sir. If there are not any other questions, this is a second hearing. I think I hear a motion to pass.
Second.
And a second. Is there any further discussion from the subcommittee? If not, all in favor of the passage of House Bill 1116, LC 500756S, say aye. Any opposed? No. And the bill passes on to full committee. I think we're done with this subcommittee. We adjourn. Excuse me, can I have your attention, subcommittee? Actually, Chairman Stevens is the chair of the subcommittee. We just had a solution.
Okay.
We're going to come back to order. Another 2 minutes, please. We're going to come back to order. We have a solution so that we can get this bill onto full committee tomorrow. So, Chairman Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was a valid point that was brought up during subcommittee about the limited number of individuals that are in that above 21 age range, but because of that, and because that is going to be a question others will have, a very valid question, I would like to amend the bill with the chairman's permission and is Ledge Counsel here?
We can do that.
We'll have to. It would be to leave out in two areas, line 22, where you see the line through age 21 on line 22. Just leave out the or age 25 if legally possible. And then also on line 51, where it also says, or between the ages of 18 and 25, if legally possible. So that's the effort of the amendment. So it's two amendments to the bill eliminate anyone over the age of 21.
We have a do pass recommendation as amended by this committee. Do I have a second? We have a second. All those in
Now do we
favor?
vote on the amendment?
First thing we need to do is vote on amendment. Actually, we're gonna vote on as amended with a substitute.
Thank you.
So we're going we have a do pass as amended as a subcommittee substitute to the full committee. We have a do pass and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's on to the full committee. Now, we are adjourned.
As amended. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir. That's.